Hey, and we are live. Welcome everyone tonight to another edition, another episode of Afterburn Soccer as we talk about FC Dallas, North Texas, and plenty of other topics. We hope that you find your way to our channel tonight and chat with us and shape the show. But regardless, we're going to have a good time as we get talking tonight. My name is Nathan Hill. You can follow me at Nathan J. Hill. I'm the little wrangler for this here thing. There in the middle is our good buddy Jose Carmona at El Chico Carmona, and he's working out some technical issues to get things going. And we welcome Ishmael Belcora at Belcora Ishmael on Twitter, one of our North Texas resident reporters, to talk about FC Dallas, to talk about North Texas, to talk about the drama surrounding the team this past weekend. And we got some clips. We got some post-game clips from Nico Estevez. I was able to actually, since I'm on the West Coast now, attend the game in person from the press box and ask Nico a couple of questions in person about the loss. So let's just start there. FC Dallas loses at LA 2-1, down a man most of the match as Emma Tumasi is sent off. It gave up an early goal off the press. It was not an inspiring display, and yet the team hung around, tied the game up, and then gave up a late goal to lose all 3 points. So let's start there and get our reactions. Jose, is it working? Can you hear us? Well, maybe he is working out his technical issues. Ishmael, let's start with you. What were your reactions from this loss for FC Dallas?
I think we showed a lot of grit. I think the team showed a lot of fight against the adverse conditions of what ended up happening. When you get 3 different VAR decisions against you, I'm not saying any of them were technically incorrect, but a lot of them were subjective point of view, as is the nature of refereeing. But despite all of that, to really show a lot of heart in the game was really it made the loss a little bit more bearable. And I think it's worth noting again that LAFC more likely than not is going to win some kind of trophy this year. And so when you look at losing to a team at their home stadium, 2-1, a man down, after conceding a penalty and getting a goal knocked off, it's a good result. It was a good performance. It's not a good result, but it's a good performance.
Yeah. It was. Now, Jose, can you hear us? All right, we're just not.
Sorry, guys.
We can hear you, Jose. I don't know. We can
See,
hear
I can
you.
hear all of a sudden. I can hear you all of a sudden. So I think something wrong with my headset. But anyway, go ahead. Ask your question.
Well, no, just your reactions to the game. Were you able to watch the match? I know you've been on the road.
I was able to watch here and there, and honestly, I think at the end of the day, a 2-1 loss, being down a man for most of the match, against honestly the top team in the league. I think we all wanted to get that, at least that point. So it is disappointing, but it's not upsetting. I'm not going to get upset over the result. I'm going to be upset, disappointed as a fan that we didn't at least get a point out of there. But I'm not upset about it. If we were not down to 10 men and it was a 2-1 result, then I'd be upset and disappointed, and I'd have some, I'd be upset over a lot of players. But once you're down to 10 men, honestly, you just want to hope your team has a chance to get out of there with something, and the team gave itself a shot. But it's just hard to keep a team like LAFC to only 2 goals, or actually really allowing only 1 goal to him once you're down to 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
hopefully the team will take that as a positive, build on it, and put up, get us 3 points this next week.
Well, let's get into it a little bit more on this, but let's first hear from Nico. So I attended the game. It was an interesting experience to be in the press box and meet FC Dallas media staff and just be there present for the game. Which once they're down 1 goal and then they go down to 10 men, you're sort of like, well, it's going to be a long night, And I think even the FC Dallas media staff, and then FC Dallas just sort of hung around. They hung around. They, and created a chance. I even mentioned to the guy sitting next to me, and I said, "Hey, if they're going to get a goal, it's probably going to be off a set piece." And sure enough, the tying goal came in a truly bizarre center back fashion that we've now had 2 games where that has happened. An Ibiaga to Tafari kind of exchange of sorts, and so for a moment you felt like FC Dallas outplayed LAFC over the course of the game, and it's something that Nico even talked about. And so it's disappointing for them to give up that late goal, even though they had another chance at least try to get something on frame at the end. Didn't quite come together. So here's kind of Nico on how the team responded.
Well, the first thing is we didn't play good the first 15 minutes. We deserved that goal against, and we have to be critical on ourselves and look at ourselves first. And then I think after we score the goal, Cerillo's goal, I have doubts that how Hader can affect because he's very small, And then it's more, I think, Acosta trying to block that shot that doesn't let the goalkeeper to save it. Again, if you see his goalkeeper, McCarthy and Hader, he has a good view there. And after that, I think we kept responding. And then we had the red card. That is, it makes harder. You coming here against a good team and you get a red card. Also, difficult to accept because the measure that the referee was giving since the minute that Tillman grabbed from the neck Alan Velasco, and he didn't show a yellow card. He's putting that bar a little bit difficult to get cards. And if you see the play, what Ima is trying to do is not to go head to head. He's just turning his body to not go head to head. In this one, he doesn't have even his arm like this. He has opened his arm, and with the biceps, not with the elbow, with the biceps, he hits in his face. Then questionable one, but it didn't go in our favor. At halftime, we talked that we have a special group of players, and a special group of players do special things, and it's about going out there, recognizing that we didn't do well on the first 15 minutes, and believing that we could came back strong and having our chances in some counterattacks, some of the build-ups that we did well, even with 10 men, and set pieces to score and to put the game a little bit difficult for them. I think we did a good job on that. And then after they had a little bit lag in that last goal. It was a not dangerous shot, and we put that goal in. But I think I'm very proud of my players. It's not easy to come here, start sloppy as we did, respond. Some of the calls didn't go in our way. And we kept responding, and this show a lot for the strength of this team. And we take some good learning lessons today to keep growing and to keep using that for the rest of the season.
First question after we heard Nico, and I just love how he talks about his players and his his attention to the game. Was Emma done wrong? Was that a red card, in y'all's opinion?
I mean, again, it's really hard to look at these kinds of calls that are definitely orange calls and be like, yeah, it's a red card when you have a player in the Charlotte's New York game going cleats up on someone's knee and getting literally no cards. And in that same game, that same kind of play, a Charlotte player elbows someone in the face, high arm, and nothing gets called there either. I think in a world where pro refs are consistent, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, that is a call that should be a red card, just out of an observation of safety, like just being overly cautious in those kinds of situations. We know Emma, it's not like he's going up elbow high, like he's not going up and cocking his elbow. It's just he does a weird movement with his body, and that gets it so that the arm is like right in someone's face. Yeah, it's elbow area to the face, but it's a difficult one to swallow because I don't know. Like Nico said, there's been inconsistencies, just not in just this game, but in other MLS games, and it's a difficult thing to accept whenever pro isn't consistent.
Oh, you're muted. It just says you muted yourself, so. Well. Check on the interface, Jose. Yeah. So I think you have the ability to mute yourself in the little web browser or whatever. It's your headphones. Oh, that stinks. We see a lot of MIGs there. Well, all right. It's all right, Jose. This is you. We'll work through it all. It just says, I see a little thing. It comes up, says you muted yourself. But all right. So this is the other thing about the game, because I saw in the chat too, like right after Emma was sent off, there was another pretty tough tackle, Murillo of LAFC, and that maybe it should have gone to VAR. I haven't seen any replays of it, so I can't say one way or the other. Myself, kind of whether FC Dallas got outdone there, but I did. So what was interesting was that I did. You notice that Nico got that yellow card right before halftime. He went basically up to the touchline by the fourth official and stood there, and the official came over and gave him a yellow card. So I asked him about that after the game as well, and this is what he said. I guess by the refs.
No, I did on purpose. I wanted to see my players. I'm fighting for them. I told them, and they have to get a red card. I'll get it. We are all fighting today together, and they have to see that I have the energy to fight with them. And then I think they saw that also, and it helped them to understand that we were fighting from the bench with them and helping them to achieve our objective today, that is coming here and win the champion.
Nico, gotta love that guy.
I mean, it says something that in all of these press conferences, Nico is usually very vague and like supportive and positive, like after games, despite like a loss or anything like that. He usually doesn't talk about referee decisions or anything like that. And so for him to do it like this, for him to come out, for him to get the yellow card before halftime, it shows that, like, again, it's not a game where you look at the decisions and you say these were wrong decisions, right? Nothing here was 100% an incorrect call. And like, I usually give refs the benefit of the doubt because I was a ref at some point. But when in the entirety of the game, the LAFC only have 2 yellow cards when we have like 5 or 6, and then we have a red card. And then you have the O'Brien, who moves out of the way before the ball even passes him. And then you have the penalty kick where Siki doesn't even see the player coming up from behind him. Like, all of these things just make it so it just feels like an unfairly called game. And it's just frustrating because, like Jose said, LAFC is probably one of the, like, it's a really good team, probably one of the best in the league. And we were there, and we competed And so it feels like the loss was not because of mistakes, which there were, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like the referee put his finger on the scale just a little bit, and that allowed LAFC to get what they needed.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, it's my headset. I bang on it a couple of times and I can see it coming out. So I apologize for that. And I got to set it to get repaired. But what I'm saying is, I was agreeing earlier with Ishmael that basically, yes, you want to say that Demon deserved that red card, but you want to say it if that's called evenly across the league and in game. You don't see that, and that's what's frustrating. If that's not a red card elsewhere, then why is it a red card here, and vice versa? So, just frustrating because, in general, it seems like when Dallas is on FC Dallas on the road, games tend to be called in favor of the opponents, or not necessarily called, but like Vancouver was allowed to be way more physical than you would like to see. Stuff like that. You see what to us appears like a clear home advantage for the home team when FC Dallas on the road, but you don't really see that at FC Dallas games. At least, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a complete homer, but to me it appears that way. Not to the same level that you see these other teams getting. LAFC shouldn't need the help of the officials to do those ballots.
Right, and I think Nico would agree with you, Jose. And he said it was interesting when he was asked a question by an LAFC reporter. He said, and I didn't pull the quote out, but that when they walked across to shake hands, that LAFC staff told him that, hey, y'all deserve more. Y'all deserve something out of this match. And he said that doesn't happen very often. So I think even LAFC knew that they were a bit lucky. They benefited from some of those calls that maybe in other games are a little more 50-50, or a little more that orange, that kind of that could maybe, yes, it could be a little harsh, that you typically don't get all those calls to go your way and over the course of the match.
And I mean, like this LAFC team, it wasn't it wasn't a full strength team because Bouanga wasn't in there at the start. You had Tillman, who got his first start. You had their left back. They didn't have their full starting 11 because it's the international window, and so that's another aspect that's a little frustrating because you come into this game and FC Dallas is pretty lucky where they haven't had a lot of players called up, and so this game, it wasn't like LAFC dominated. They controlled the pace of the game because that's their style, but they weren't the better team throughout the entire game. They were missing chances. They weren't really creating that many. It was based off of the little press that they do occasionally off of set pieces. They were a little bit dangerous, but they weren't the better, like they weren't dominating. And so it just feels frustrating whenever the team comes out and plays pretty well and still struggles to get, doesn't even get the point that they definitely deserve.
Is it me, or was Nico criticizing the refs for not criticizing the refs? Just, it just appeared to me that way. I don't know if he was trying to word it in a way where he wouldn't get fined, but it sounded to me he was criticizing the refs.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nico is understanding that as a coach, he's got to be careful. He's got to walk that line. It was unusual. I think as Ismail pointed out, he's usually pretty even keel, and he's a very positive guy, and I just love his energy. In these kinds of situations, but you could tell he was really frustrated with just kind of how things have unfolded in this one, and how close they were from seeing at least a point out. Which, if they had gotten a point out of this game, down a man, we'd just be ecstatic, and they were so close, And even at the last kick of the game, I think Jimenez sort of was sort of in a dangerous spot, had a half chance, wasn't able to get anything on it or finish the play, and so you wonder. And meanwhile, Ishmael, you mentioned LAFC wasn't at full strength. Well, let's be real, FC Dallas wasn't at full strength. Paxton did not play in this one. He was there. He's suited up. I think he would have been available if they needed him. But I don't mind that because it's like, hey, give him another week to sort of be extra sure. He's been so vital to this team. But the other big loss was Sebastian Letjet, who has been embroiled in his own controversy. And so, off the record, kind of thing. I was like, what's up, and but I don't think it really bothered the team. I don't think that was a distraction with the squad. I don't think they were like, they understood that people have personal issues and stuff. So, so FC Dallas wasn't at their best, perhaps. In this
I also
week.
want to add that not only were they not at their best, they were also forced to change formation to make up for the fact that their two starting eights were out for this game. So I would say not ideal. I mean, we prefer to see FC Dallas play in their 4-3-3.
Yeah.
While you would hope to see a formation like this in maybe a U.S. Open Cup match or something like that. But you hate to see it in a regular season match where it's forced on you, as opposed to doing it at full strength, with Leggett and Paxton available. That it's different. And I want to add that it also forced O'Brien into action, and that just caused all sorts of frustrations to the fan base. Mainly because it seems like he hasn't progressed. Like he hit a certain level, and he's been at that level, and he has, we'd love to wait for him to improve, and maybe he showed hints that he can improve, but he's never really seemed. He's just at the level that he is, and he hasn't seemed to progress at all. As a fan, you start thinking,
I'm with you.
hey, if this is the highest he's going to be, and he's not going to improve, then maybe it's time for the team to, give Kamungo or one of the other guys a real chance to supplant.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at this game, like, there's a couple things that you can take away from it. One is, O'Brien's probably, I think it's done. I really don't think there's anything else to gain from that. I also do think, though, that on top of that, Velasco in the middle is an interesting tweak that this team can do. He had 3 key passes throughout the game. Like, he always does come into the middle often in games, but because of the way that the team's set up, he's usually like tried to be isolated one-on-one on the wing first. But he was able to, even with a midfield as good as LAFC's, he was able to find gaps and like make those passes that were needed in the game. I also think that after this game, I think we can say like pretty decisively that Ibiaga is not, at least currently, the starter that we thought he might be, because there's still a lot of mistakes that are made, individual mistakes. And I mean, when we look at this game, the goals that they had, they weren't on Ibiaga, but they were defensive mistakes. Paz probably at fault for the first one a little bit. You had like Ibiaga kind of whiffs at it in the second one and kind of confuses Paz a little bit. And so what I think I can take away from this game a little bit is that it's a little concerning that the team still hasn't had a clean sheet, given how good the team was defensively last year. And it's not a knock on everyone that's played so far, because Tafari is as good as we've wanted him to be, if not better. Farfan is consistent, and I love Ima despite everyone not liking him. And Paz has always been really good. But I feel like the strength that this team had, the backbone that it had, was how good it was defensively last year. And that was because we limited those kinds of mistakes, those kinds of stupid, idiotic things that sometimes teams in MLS end up doing defensively. And we can't seem to scratch that off early on. Hopefully, as the season progresses, we're able to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm not giving up on PBI like it just yet or anything like that. I just think Nico's not helping him or the team by rotating between him and Martinez. He needs to settle on one or the other and give them a run of games. Ibiaga needs to play every game to show that he deserves to be there, or make Martinez the guy and bring in Ibiaga late for his. Let's face it, that's 2 set piece goals that him and Nicosi have combined on. That's not a fluke. These guys have been dominant aerially when they play together on the defensive side, and so that they're scoring goals means that they're starting to try to figure out a way to translate that dominance in the air on the defensive side into the attack. That's a positive. That's something they can build on. But at the end of the day, you got to keep, you can't have those set piece goals negated by a lot of goals to the opposing team. So I just wish Nico would settle on the 2-man pair and let them roll and let them grow together. This rotation thing, I'm not a fan of it.
Here's
but like I said, I think they're going to run.
Ibiaga and Tafari with the chemistry that they're exhibiting. We didn't even see Martinez make the field, and I thought he would have been a natural sub at some point just because of his passing ability. But maybe that's an overstatement. And you wanted Ibiaga just because he's so familiar with LAFC and playing in that stadium. But Jose, I think you make a good point. Look, Obrian was awful in this game, and I'm with Ishmael that probably that run is over. And if the team can get something from for him, if we can do a trade in the league or something, it's not terrible to have him on the roster because you always could use a speedy guy late in some of these matches, and he can have a role, and maybe he'll get on a run. But yeah, I have questions too, like who's the best starting pair? I don't know that we know that answer exactly yet. Maybe Ibiaga can do that. I do think I'm really impressed with Edwin, with Cerrillo at this point in the season. I think he's been he's been stepping up his game, and he was unlucky not to have a goal. And if he had tied it up with that shot, it just feels like that. It was just like his form was finally, like he's feeling confident, and when he feels confident, he can be a great player. But Quinone, not bad in this game. Certainly not. Wasn't the worst or anything. But yeah, it's hard to think long term.
I think Cerrillo continues to improve. He's not improving, by leaps and bounds, but he's making small improvements every year, every season. We're starting to see that he's getting better and better. So, it's. I think he's to the point where he's still plays certain games where we wish we had a better sixth, but I think we can't really complain as long as he keeps improving and showing improvement, which he is doing. I mean, that's what you want from a player, and unfortunately, he's probably at the rate that he's improving, he's probably still several years from being that dominant six that we want. But I think he's on his way to being a solid, maybe not a dominant six, but at least a solid MLS six. And you're seeing it. Is it enough? I mean, I think it's enough that the team isn't going to go out and grab that dominant six that we want, because they're going to say, hey, we do that and we're stunting Cerrillo's growth. He's clearly improving. He's clearly just showing that he deserves to be a starter. And, if a team can find a difference maker in another position and not have to worry about a six, I mean, they're likely going to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've not been the biggest Edwin fan. Mainly because you have. This is why, like, I don't like to take stuff. I'm not taking anything really out of these first couple of games, because with Edwin, what we've seen over the last couple of years, since the year he became a pro, is that he has these batches of games where he's like incredible. I remember when he first got signed. When he first got signed and Grueza was injured, and he was like the starter for like a good like 12 games in the first half of that first season of his preliminary season. It was incredible to watch because like you had another homegrown that was just playing um, past our expectations and just being super consistent with it.
I remember that.
And I remember specifically what game it was that he just started to play really poorly. It was a Chicago Fire game when we went there and lost 4-0.
No.
And I think that like that I think with Edwin, one of the things that hasn't been able to been shaken off is how good he plays is based off of his morale, but almost 100%.
But all right, well, we're live again. Well, all right, Ishmael. So, Ishmael, your point is exact. I think Edwin, like, I just think there is a certain player in Major League Soccer that you get them on a good run of form, and they look fantastic. But then they just have a hiccup, they have a bad game. And that Chicago game, which I remember so
Yeah, I remember that
so
game.
well. No one played very well. I think Hollingshead played poorly. Hedges played poor. Like, it was just a terrible game. And it was just one of those Lucci games. But, yeah, I feel like, I think that's where Edwin is. So if Edwin has a bad game, then he can get into a poor run of form. And then all of a sudden it's like he's starting over. But if he gets on a good run of form, he's confident. He can be a great piece on this team, a great starter, But
A great piece. No, that's the thing, right? So I think great piece is a good descriptor of it, but I'm at the point of now where I'm looking at how rapidly this league is growing, and if we were third in the West last year, right? Our expectations should be getting higher and higher each year based off of the results that we have. And so if we want to continue to compete, like if Edwin isn't able to set that, if he isn't a top 10 defensive mid in this league, which is something I think is doable. I think if he's able to be super consistent with it and continue to grow, that he can be a top 10 defensive mid in this league. But if he isn't that, there needs to be another player. And I understand right now Faku takes up too much of the salary to justify it. Mm-hmm. So right now it's Edwin's role to lose, but he still hasn't shown, at least to me, that he deserves to be the starter of a team that's third place in the West. Like, I just still haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. And I hope to be able to see it because I want this season to be a successful one again. So,
yeah.
And of course, I completely disagree. But that's fine. That's the whole point with Surreal is that he's going to basically be a divisive player between the fan base because some players, they want that. Grisso, someone along those lines. And Surreal is not that. And like I said, he's years from being that kind of player, if ever. But he offers other things, and I think that near goal that shows you that he's becoming more of a factor in the attack, more of a player that pushes the ball forward, which is, I think, what this team needs. They need both, of course, but he offers one of the two, and like I said, it's not for me. As long as he keeps improving, that's what I want to see, and I think it's fair to say that he's definitely set some small space between him and Facundo to the point where I think I would like to see the team at some point move from Facundo and bring in another player. It doesn't have to be a dominant six, but it has to be somebody that can push Cerrillo for the starting spot, which I don't think Facundo can do anymore. I think it's Cerrillo has beaten him for that position, and that's what you got to do. You went out and got somebody to compete with Tuamasi, who is a solid defensive fullback I mean, I have no issue with him there. Our complaint with him is that we all miss Reynolds, we all miss Cannon going forward, and he's not that. But he's excellent on defense, something that this team clearly treasures. But they brought someone in who is now going to get his shot to try to unseat him, and he wants to do that. He's going to be able to match his defensive prowess while showing he can go forward, which he's already shown that he can go forward. But we need to see if he's going to be a liability in the defense, because if he is, then Tuamasi will just simply retake his job. But what I'm getting at is, I'm okay with Cerrillo. We need to move on from Facundo and bring in a player that can push Cerrillo for the starting job, which I don't think Facundo can do. That's the next step for this team. If you're not going to bring in a surefire starter, a DP level 6, then you need to bring in somebody that's a step above Facundo and can push to unseat Cerrillo at the minimum.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. I do think that's a long-term goal. I said I don't think Facundo was, certainly the best performance of his life against LAFC, but he was active. He's solid. He's solid. He can do.
He's a solid veteran player, but
he's not 800K though. Yeah,
but I think he's not gonna beat Cerrillo for that 6. And let's face it. So that's what happened with Nani. He was brought in to compete with Tomassi. He couldn't unseat him, so it's time to move on.
Ishmael, the question I want to ask you, and I want you to search your heart. But let's say Giovan Jesus comes in and just puts it together over the course of 90 minutes, and Nico can't go back to Ima immediately. Is your heart broken? Are you okay with that?
No, I mean, again, I don't understand people that have like the player themselves as the thing that they're a fan of. So like, I don't like Messi, Ronaldo fanboys kind of piss me off, because then it's just kind of looking at a player and just making them like your whole mindset. And so if Giovan's able to improve this team and play better, then yeah, for sure, have him be the starter. People have already argued that he has made this team better, and that's incorrect. I don't think we have seen enough from him to like determine that he is clearly like more attack driven, but we haven't seen him over the course of 90 minutes be defensively pushed. And I think that really matters if you're going to be playing on the same side as Ibeagha. That's going to be that's going to be crucial. And so if we are going for a Tafari Ibeagha center back partnership, Tafari ends up on the left, and so you're basically secured on the left because Farfan and Tafari are like very solid defensive players. I haven't seen enough of Giovan to warrant that right now, and Ibeagha. Again, you can keep giving him the opportunity to keep proving himself. But at least for right now, there are still little hiccups here and there that are slightly concerning. And so actually next game against a team like Portland, who are god-awful defensively, but have the attacking prowess to keep pushing and to like test, they're going to go for that corner if Ibeagha starts. They're going to go, and Giovan probably will be starting. They're going to go for that right-hand side. And so if we're able to see that over 90 minutes, then yeah, you keep going towards Giovan. He's the young DP. I mean, no, he's the U22 initiative player.
Right.
That's the one that you're investing in. There's no one currently in the academy set up. I mean, Colin Smith and Endley have both looked promising, but no one has looked as good as players like Hannon or Reynolds have looked like in the past, or some that have that kind of potential. And so you're hoping Giovan is that. He's not. He hasn't shown that yet, and he hasn't been given that opportunity. If he does show that and the opportunities he's given, then yeah, he should be the starter.
Okay, well, I want to agree and also disagree with this one. Once I want to say that yes, Giovanni Jesus has made the team better, but not as a starter, as someone off the bench. by giving us 5 solid reserves coming off the bench. We got 5 guys that you can say, and we're talking about whoever doesn't start for the center back trio. There's one. Then you got Facundo. Then you got Jimenez. Then you got Giovanni Jesus. And then you got Tsiki. And there's 5 solid guys off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And Giovanni Jesus is part of that. He's come in and he's given a solid thing. So he has improved the team in that capacity. Now, we won't know. We're going to get a glimpse. We're going to see him, get his shot. And that's all I've been saying is give him a shot. And I'm okay with him proving that he can be, maybe not replace Tomasi, but a situational starter where, hey, we don't need a very defensive, excuse me, right back against this opponent. We can, maybe they're less than full strength. We can then roll out Giovanni Jesus, stuff like that. If you have a player that can be a situational starter at least in his first season, that's a win for this team. And the main thing is, can he push Tomasi to become keep improving? Because Tomasi is another player that has continued to improve. I do want to go back to something.
All right.
Some issues, and that's Velasco playing in the center. No, not if it means we're starting O'Brien or someone else on the wing.
Yeah.
So
if Kamungo is the right wing player, and if he's able to get those, if he's able to prove, because in preseason they said that he wasn't fit, so that's probably why he hasn't been given the run of games that we were hoping that he would get as a sub. But if he's able to push O'Brien out of being the second stringer, what I was saying was that Velasco's a good option in the middle. Until that happens, do not play him in the middle, because then you have to play O'Brien.
So that's what I just want to say is not at the price of playing O'Brien, not at the price of playing someone who's not ready to back up him or Ariola. I certainly don't want Paxton being played out of position, or Jesus being, either him or Jesus being asked to play on the wing to facilitate Velasco moving to the center. So let's get that main backup on the wing figured out, and then absolutely, let's then I'll be ready to say give Velasco some time in the center. But till then, no.
Velasco has definitely been a foul magnet for this team. I mean, he's really earning some things, and that I value that so much, because in some of those situations, it just helps slow the game down, give FC Dallas a chance to catch their breath, give them a chance to kind of regroup, and then have it a swinging in a cross or something on a free kick and try to create something when they're not generating much. So it was interesting to me that he was brought off on this game, because I thought he was a bright spot. But on the other hand, he was beat up a lot. He was hacked a bit. He was a focus of attention. So, especially in a tough match like this, you think, why not give him a rest? We're going to need him at full strength ahead, So it's just interesting. But good on him, for Velasco, for taking on that role and just understanding too, I got to earn some fouls. I've got to dribble into the spaces and just get something going for my team.
That's good for this team, considering that we're one of the worst teams at getting PKs, earning PKs. So it's good to see that from him, and hopefully we start seeing that from other players like Paxton or Jesus, drawing fouls, in dangerous positions where the team can then capitalize. So. I hope the team gets its issues. It's still early in the season, so
yeah.
So I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, and I agree with Ishmael that we have a great keeper right now for FC Dallas. Been pretty lucky in that regard for the past few seasons, and to know that you have a guy like Jimmy Marr that you could turn to if needed. But Paz has been keeping this team in games early, and helping them along. So good to have him. Good to watch him. Let's jump over now to North Texas. North Texas had their opening match of the weekend. They played LAFC 2 out here on the West Coast. I was unable to go to that match. I would have loved to see them. Looked like it was a an interesting cagey match. I haven't seen the replay yet. I'm not sure what Apple TV is going to do with
Yeah.
that. You know,
but
but evidently, Hope Avayevu, first goal of the season for North Texas. Here I actually have the clip for it. And so we just say congratulations to those guys for getting that tough win on the road. Here it is. Kind of one of these turnover things. You just take advantage of it. Hope with the skill and the knowledge just to, unmarked, just slotting it away. Good stuff. And then late in the game, here, let me remove art because I'm not sure. This is early. So this was early in the 9th minute. So they just really took advantage of.
Yeah, it was in the 9th minute, yes.
Yeah, early season stuff. But then late to preserve the win, we're able to get a huge save from Julian Eystone, the young phenom. Huge guy, tall dude. I mean, you could just tell from him in that goal. Just to preserve the full 3 points. 16 years old, the next maybe goalkeeper phenom coming out of FC Dallas Academy. Gotta love that performance. Gotta love 3 points on the road to start the season off with North Texas. I want to go back and watch this one because I'm really curious how this team just sort of goes about their business, how they line up, and under their new head coach. And we just don't know enough yet to get a sense of. But like 8 players made a debut for this North Texas side, which is kind of what you want to see, right?
Yeah. I mean,
not just 8 players, but also 3 of them were teenagers.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things to take away from this game. Is that the two standouts from what I saw. Eystone was one of them. It wasn't just the penalty. He made like 6 saves, I think. Mm-hmm. I think he's making an argument for FC Dallas to pull kind of like a Colin Smith and maybe loan Carrera out to a higher competing side in USLC, just to be able to also give Eystone minutes and give Carrera minutes. If Carrera is able to guarantee time in a USLC team, because Eystone's still 16, so it's not like there's a rush. But if that's something that they're able to do, that would be really good. The other player that stood out was Urzua, and when you look at the passing map, he's literally everything went through him, and he probably won't be the starter because Sante is currently playing and starting tonight with the Haitian national team. So he's probably a year or two away. Sante is from being signed with FC Dallas, but Urzua proving that there is depth there is really, really interesting. It's this is the first time we've really seen him full out in a match where everything kind of relies on him, because the attack kind of wasn't very consistent. They Hope had that goal, but Mulatto didn't have that many touches in the game. So there was kind of a disconnect. So just having the defensive side with Eystone and the center backs both played pretty well, and then Urzua being the chain for everything was really promising to see, especially with so many players for NTSC out in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to just say that the whole thing with Carrera, it's interesting to point that North Texas did a little thing on Twitter where they announced their roster, and they listed their 3 goalkeepers for the season, and Carrera not listed. Carrera is not listed as one of the 3 goalkeepers that will be playing in North Texas this season, which means he's going to be the 3rd keeper on FC Dallas, and they'll set him down to play from time to time. But listed as the number 1 guy is Julian Eystone, is listed as the number 1 keeper for North Texas, with Michael Weber, the Irish guy they signed out of I forget what college that was, some college I've never heard of.
Right.
And then the 3rd keeper is Justin Stewart, who's another I believe another academy player. So
he was with Dynamo 2 last year, and so
yeah, he's academy age player. Yes, so he was a trialist, wasn't he? Also,
I think so. Yeah, I think it might not be trialist, but he moved from Dynamo 2 to the academy, and
yeah.
I think
So
like it's kind
he's
of
an
like
academy. I think you're right.
yeah, it's kind of like Pablo Torre, where he's kind of like both, but they haven't technically signed him with North Texas yet.
But
So
yeah, it's Julian Eystone is wearing the number 1 jersey with North Texas. So I thought that was very interesting. So I wasn't surprised when I actually saw him named as the starter. And don't be surprised if he's the starter going forward. And let's face it, he's a player that the team has to try to sign to another, you know, homegrown contract. He's basically one of your studs in the academy, and that's saying a lot for this team. You know, Carrera. We all know that he should be playing at a higher level than MLS Next Pro, and this is a perfect level for Eystone to advance his career. So, color me excited to see more Eystone uh, in action. But also, let me just say that on Twitter on our chat, I call the W from North Texas simply because the roster, the players that they Kamungo playing for them, Mulatto playing for them. On paper, it was like, hey, this is a W. Now, of course, LAFC at home they played tough and they kept themselves and they gave themselves a shot to win. But at the end of the day, just looking at this team and looking at their opponents and looking at who they got coming up, this team can go on a run. They can. They play Los Angeles Galaxy next, and Galaxy got smoked by San Jose. Not a bad team, mind you, but not a team that should be beating them 3-0. And LA Galaxy has basically rolled out an extremely young team. They left most of their players from the championship move on. So even the players that are remnants from that team were not key players on that team. So next week, I mean, again, on paper, just like I said this previous week, it should be 3 points for North Texas. You know, not. I'm just saying North Texas is a good enough team that they should beat certain teams. And if Galaxy 2, they roll out a bunch of teenagers against North Texas, it's at least 2 points on the road for this team. And I keep telling people that they're one of the best teams in MLS Next Pro, and it's not because they're the most talented team. It's just because they're a pure team. They got a set system. They got their coaches. Everyone knows what to expect. And if you roll out a average to mediocre team against them, they're going to get the double. The teams that beat North Texas are really the top tier teams, the playoff level MLS Next Pro teams.
It's going to be fun to watch. And of course, Jose has an article coming out on Afterburn .soccer. I got it coming out in the morning, scheduled for the morning, his first early top 10. It's only been 1 week of action, so a lot of caveats, right?
I want to point out that MLS Next Pro also has their own top 10. And they went with all the winners. I mean, they basically said, anyone who won impressively, they, there's no eye test or anything. It's like, oh, hey, these guys won 4-0, boom, they're number one.
Right. Okay.
So they're basically just taking the pure numbers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, hey, I'm looking at the quality of the opponent. Was it a home win or a road win? Did you get 2 points? Was it at home on the road? I mean, it all matters. And so there's some teams on there that my top team is not a team that won. It's not a team that went out and won 3-0 or 2-1. They're just a top team.
Yeah.
So it's people will look at it and there's at least, I'll tell you right now that there are 3 teams in the top 10 that did not win their games. And people will say, hey, what about this team over here? They won 3-0. I'll give you an example of a team that didn't make the top 10 that won impressively, and that's Minnesota United. Minnesota United got a 3-0 victory against Real Monarchs. Real Monarchs are not a good team. They were not a good team last year. And it's not that they don't have talent. It's just that Real Monarchs tend to roll out academy players. A very, very green, very raw team. And development. They're focused on development. There's nothing wrong with that. But their academy isn't at the level of some of the other academies. And they're susceptible to getting beaten badly by teams like Minnesota United, who are going to roll out, they're going to play multiple players from their senior squad on their roster. So on paper, it looks like an impressive victory, but it's not. It's an expected victory for Minnesota United against one of the teams that's going to be at the bottom of the table.
All right. Well, some good stuff. So North Texas win. Congratulations to Coach Cano and that squad for getting the full 3 points. Tough game for FC Dallas and LFC, but we take some positives from it. We learned something about this team and probably left some points out there despite some really tough situation. And, well, Portland comes to Frisco, and Portland's been pretty awful to start this season, which, isn't unheard of for a team like that. But plenty of more soccer to enjoy and to follow if you're a fan of FC Dallas and North Texas. So let's leave it there tonight. Thank you for the time. Sorry for the technical issues. We'll, of course, patch together an audio podcast. I'll have to merge the 2 files, but we'll make sure that happens, and I'll keep trying to figure out what's going on my end. I don't know what's going on. So thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, and go FC Dallas.
There you go.